No, you haven't.
No.
Oh, we are
You're my
live.
first like proper interview for months. But actually, since lockdown, I just made a conscious decision. That I didn't want to. I didn't have anything to say, and I didn't want to speak to people. So it's like, no,
There you go. Smart
no.
woman. Smart woman.
Yeah, and I think you've just got to. You got to do what feels right in your gut, even if you can't explain in an intelligent way. Sometimes you've just got to do what feels right, and to hell with everyone else.
It's true. It's true because they'll be there. They'll be there when
They
you.
will be there, and if they're interested in you and they love you, and sometimes they won't necessarily understand why you do things, and sometimes in this period, I guess a lot of us. We've none of us really known why we're doing things. We've just been reacting from one thing to the next, and so it's really nice actually to be talking again. It just seemed like the right time to just be talking and sharing and catching up with your friends.
I know. I know. Listen, I am so when I reached out to you on I guess it was Insta because you're not on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I was like it was something and people always go, how do you decide and how do you know? I said, I don't know. I just this like the universe just says this person, ask this person, ask that person.
Yeah.
And I love doing this medium. I love talking to people, and it was just like ask Liz. I think she'll do it. I think she'll do it. And when you said yes,
wow,
yes,
wow, yeah, it was just because I had said no to several people, a few of whom, or one of whom certainly is a friend that goes way back, and I just said, I don't know, I don't really want to talk about the past, in anymore. I don't know why. I just don't want to talk about the past and the difficult things in the past, because they are what you see, the sum of them is what you see before you now. And actually, for all of us, what matters isn't what's gone, it's what's ahead. And quite frankly, the present and the future is much more exciting than you know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
I do. I mean, yeah, I really do, because it's amazing. Hi, Kenny. Kenny's coming into the people are coming into the room.
Hey, Kenny.
Yes, and
hey.
We always talk about you all the time. He's like, I love
in a nice way.
Oh yes, of course. Nothing. We don't. We save our shady bits for people who deserve it.
Oh, thank you both.
Yes, Linda. Hi,
Linda. Hi.
Cheers. I'm going to cheers.
What are you drinking? Is that white wine?
This is white wine. This is I think this is an Argentinian white wine. Yeah, so we're working on getting our wine sponsor for Convos. So if anybody knows anybody, tell them we're looking. Cheers to you. Well, welcome to this afternoon's Kiki Conversations. Hi, Jim. So great to see you. Hi, Marcus. Wonderful.
Amen.
My regular Convos crew, they're amazing. So happy Thursday, December 17th, everyone. I'm so happy that the Elizabeth Llewellyn.
Oh, check you out. Thank you.
Come on, we love her. Listen, she I think when I told you when we were at the Met, I was like, I've been a fan of yours for a very long time. And I think you might have been shocked, like, what?
Yeah.
But like most of my friends know, first of all, I love singers. I love our being, but I'm always so very, very curious about singers all over the world, and following people's careers. And I guess if I had the bandwidth and the passion to be an agent, I probably would have been an okay one. But I'd rather give artists I try to know everybody. And so I
Yeah.
remember hearing about you and hearing some performances. And I was like, wow, what an amazing, interesting, colorful, rich, just beautiful voice. And
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I'm just so honored to know you. And I have to tell you, when you went on for best performance, it was like we were all like, it was all of us there with you.
Yeah.
All so excited.
I could feel it, on and off stage. What a night that was. What I will never forget it for as long as I live. It was just, you kind of go on and you do you go on and you do your thing because it's your night. This is your performance, and you go on and do your thing. And you had that first thing, and then everyone scatters, and then we had the funeral. And in that slow walk through the people up to Serena's house, all I could hear around, everyone was looking at me, daggers. Everyone hates Bess, but actually under their voices they were going, "You're doing really well. You sound amazing. Keep going. That's great." And it was all the way through, right the way to the steps. And even as I went up the steps, the dirty looks I was getting were accompanied by, "You're doing so well." It was honestly, I've never felt so supported and so loved and so encouraged from the first note right the way through to the end, and then darling Freddie giving me the most enormous hug as we got off stage. I just thought, I can't believe I've made my net debut in such a lovely environment of people. It's not about the building or the stagehands who are wonderful, or the director, assistant director, and what have you. It's actually the people on stage, dancers, actors, singers, people who had been singing for ages and who were stalwarts of the Met, to people for whom this was their Met debut, even if I'm not saying just in the chorus, because that chorus rocked the house. There was no, you know what I mean? So
they hadn't heard anything like that.
Yeah. Right. And wow, it was really overwhelming, and I felt just really grateful. Well, for the first bit, I went off backstage and I kind of started running around in circles because I thought I had another quick change or something. Your brain's going 10 to the dozen. I was like, where do I go next? And then suddenly I stopped. And who was it? It wasn't Janae. Who was it? Someone came on for the final scene and they said, "Oh, can I have a selfie with you?" And I said, yeah, sure. It took the selfie, and then I just burst into tears on their shoulder, and they were like, "Yeah, I've got to get on stage now." Yeah, get off me, you freak. But yeah, it was.
It's that best mood. It's that best energy, right?
It was really overwhelming because I was on tenterhooks for sort of the whole 24 hours before that point. And so I don't think I'd realized just how focused and I'm absolutely going to nail every single note, every single phrase, every single scene, every single time. And that pressure that you put on yourself, when it's lifted, it's just, and then for 2 days afterwards, I was going around in a daze, and kind of, when people say, "Oh, I'd laugh when people would say, 'Oh, you've made your Met debut.' I was like, yeah, right. Yeah, actually, I have.
It sure have. And fantastic, beautiful, effortless.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Thank you. It was very special.
Yes, very special. Like you only get to make your debut one time, and when you make your debuts at these institutions that we have dreamt of singing at, like the Met and Royal Covent Garden and La Scala and all the the mountaintops of our industry. I mean, it's sort of surreal,
It is, and I think as a Brit singing that and singing, one of the title roles, it felt like such a huge honor. And so every time that someone complimented me or, encouraged me or what have you, it felt like a massive honor, because I felt as if I was being entrusted with something, by the people on stage and kind of by the American people. It's the most American of operas. And here I am, a Brit, singing one of the title roles. It was a real, honestly, it really did feel like an honor. And particularly on that stage, the most American of American stages, the best stage. It was quite something.
Wow. I didn't even think about it like that. That's wow. That's a word. That's a word.
Yeah.
That's a word. And there is nothing like Catfish Row. There's nothing like that love, like that, like the drama, like the passion, like the sounds, the characters. There's nothing in the world like Catfish Row. And so it's amazing.
Yeah. And to have that kindness as well, I will never forget. I wasn't quite sure. I mean, I don't really know, some of the principals. I don't know Eric, and I don't know sort of Denise and other people. And I wasn't quite sure what I was going to get on stage from either of them. They loom large in terms of their reputations and that they have earned, and and God bless them. It's just amazing to sing with them. But I wasn't quite sure what I was going to get. And Denise, every time she had the opportunity, she would move downstage when I had to sing, because effectively she was very much on the side, as it were, beside the stairwell. Every time she would sing the socks off her role and then move downstage, so that I was always singing downstage. And I thought, I could kiss you right now, except we're meant to be enemies. So it's just kindness, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just kindness, and it's the small things that show who and what you are, particularly on stage. And I just really appreciated it. It almost above and beyond the iconic stage that I was on. The fact that everyone was supporting that performance.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Thank you. And for those who don't understand, when your colleague steps downstage, which means front of the stage, so that you can sing out, you can face out. So I remember it was in Paris that always saying, "Girl, sing out." Wherever you are, always sing out until you That was one note that she gave me as a young singer always. So we have some people coming in saying some wonderful things. Yes.
Oh, what they say?
Linda says she has a nice Merlot.
Oh, very nice. Very classy, Linda.
Dewala. Hello, Dewala.
Hello.
Amazing. He teaches amazing singers. Yes. Kenny. Marcus. Yes. Wonderful. And we were just talking about you.
Damien!
Yes. So take us back. Take us back to where you're from, and how did you discover that you loved music?
Well, okay, where am I from? I am from London, from South London. And where did I discover I first loved music? Would you believe it's envy of my older sister? That's where it started, because my mum and dad bought an upright piano for my sister to start to learn, but my sister had the most amazing, gorgeous nails, and she didn't really want to have to cut her nails to learn the piano. And so this instrument was sitting in our living room untouched, and I'd begged from the age of 7 to around about the age of 10. I'd begged my parents that I'd be able to learn the piano, that I'd have piano lessons. And it was around about the age of 10 that they relented and said, yes, okay. Particularly as my sister wasn't going to be playing the piano. And I'm sure you've got sort of grade systems for learning instruments in the US. In the UK, we've got grades 1 to 8. And I just gobbled up all of those grades. And before my 16th birthday, I'd already done my grade 8. And I was already learning the violin. And I was already, by that point, started to have singing lessons. So I was just, inhaling all of this. And I went to effectively a private school from 11. And it was quite a small school. And we had 3 choirs, an orchestra, a string orchestra, a flute choir. We had soloists that came out of the smallest, most select choir. And, for a school of effectively 550 girls,
wow,
a lot of music by any standards. But they did lots of things, lots of sports, lots of languages. We did, public speaking competitions, all that sort of thing. So it was an easy place, really, to foster any kind of musical interest. And it was while I was at secondary school, at high school, that I decided that I wanted to apply to a conservatoire and become a musician and try my fortunes in that direction. So that's how it started. And I had a wonderful piano teacher when I did start learning the piano at 10, who I don't think I even saw the value of this, but she would charge my parents sort of £4 an hour because she was retired. She only had 2 piano pupils, and she would buy all of my sheet music, usually volumes of things. She wouldn't take any payment from my parents for the music. Or even for entrance in the exam. She'd only allow them to pay for the lessons. And I would go on a Saturday. Effectively, we'd paid for an hour, but I'd be there all afternoon and sometimes even into the evening with her, talking about music and playing me music. And her daughter is a violinist and a violin teacher, and sometimes I'd meet her. And she was one of the most generous people and musicians I've ever met. And it was her that therefore fostered that love for music. And when I started playing the violin, she was really encouraging of that. And when I started singing, she was really encouraging of that as well. And sadly, she passed away when I was at music college. Sort of sometime into my 2nd or 3rd year. So she never really got to see where all of that encouragement led to, and it's a real sadness, actually. But that's where it started for me.
That's amazing, Liz. Well, she did get to see. She just gets to see from above instead of being in the space. I thank God for teachers and particularly teachers who have that clear vision, that they understand that you have to pour into young people when you see the potential, the bud, the seed, that you have to water that. And it's amazing. I mean, I think about all the teachers that pushed me and encouraged me to go into music, to sing, or just to be expressive. Because a lot of people don't know, I danced for
really
as a kid. Yeah, I danced until I started to get boobs and booty, and then I was like, I'm never going to
like this ain't happening.
I was 12 or 13, whatever. I was like, I'm never going back there again, because I started. My body was like, you're a singer, ma'am, not a dancer. So
it's amazing how your body sort of decides these things, eh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think about on my block, I grew up on a block of about 7 houses or whatever, and down the end of the block was Miss Francis, who was a part of one of the biggest gospel groups, the Clara Ward Singers, and that sounds like you guys would know the Clara Ward Singer. And she used to sing songs to me over and over again. When I was a little kid, I would go walk down, down to the house and sit on the porch, and she would sing, and I would sing and match pitches with her, and she would just sing tunes to me. And and then as I got older, and she saw me as like a 18, 19-year-old with this kind of voice, and I just think about all those days I used to walk down to the end of the block and just sit on her porch, and she would sing songs to me. And that was a part of that sparking that love for singing. And so we're always so grateful for the people who come into our lives and give us these gifts, right?
Yeah, that generosity of spirit is the common thread, I think, that they give of their time and of themselves and of their soul and of their understanding about music and their love of music, and they just give and give and give, don't they? And it's very I certainly, as a 10-year-old up until the age of sort of 16, I'm not sure that I understood the value of that until she was gone. I didn't understand that actually people don't usually do this. They don't usually give of themselves, of from their own pocket and of their own time, in such a sort of bounteous way, do they? Yeah, and do you know what? My singing journey, in terms of how that started, I mean, I started lessons at school, but the way that happened was I was in all three choirs at school. You had to audition for the small choir, which was, I think there were about 12 of us, and if you got in, then you were able to sing solos in concerts. And what was I singing in? I think it was Pergolesi's Stabat Mater or something, and I did I did the solo soprano for that. And then after that, the headmistress said, "Come to my office tomorrow morning." I thought, was it really that bad? You never quite know, because she was a bit of a poker face lady. Anyway, she offered, and I only discovered this last year. To my mind, she'd offered to pay for my singing lessons from the age of 16 to 18, for the rest of the time I was at school. I thought it was from some sort of bursary or some sort of discretionary fund she had. And I discovered last year, because I'm an alumna that's involved with my old high school, there isn't a discretionary fund. She paid for that out of her own money. And I only discovered that last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, an angel.
Yes. And it's just incredible. I mean, I have been able to sort of connect with her, but it's interesting how we can, as children or as students, as young people, we just take and we don't quite understand. And it's probably not our job to understand, but at the time we don't understand that actually it's people giving sacrificially sometimes for our benefit, and it's important to be able to go back and say thank you to those people.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Either thank you can be verbal, acknowledging to the person. And what I learned from another coach was, thank you can be doing it for someone else.
Yes,
what was done for you.
Yes.
I had a wonderful coach, Don St. Pierre, and he was one of my coaches at Curtis, and he used to say, "Don't pay me, just do this for someone else."
Wow.
He said, "Oh, don't worry, when you're teaching or you're working, just pay it forward in that way."
Wow, that's such a good idea.
Yeah,
such a good idea, because I mean, how many of us? I mean, I don't think I'm a natural. I don't know. Perhaps there will come a time and a place for teaching and things like that. I don't think I'm a natural sort of teacher in that respect, but I do. It's important, isn't it, to sort of find some sort of outlet to, you know, to pay it forward or to pass things on or to pass advice or information on. And where we can become so obsessed with our careers
Yes.
that we forget that that's actually really important. It's part of how we learn, isn't it?
Yes.
Sometimes teaching is the best way of finding out about your own technique. You know, my teacher at the conservatoire in my second year, she said, yes, go out and do some teaching. And I thought, I've got nothing to teach. She said, no, you will learn a lot about your own singing when you have to teach it to someone else. And she was absolutely right. And yeah, but it's true that sometimes we get so, and I'm guilty of that myself, getting so obsessed and so sort of blinkered about what I'm trying to achieve in my own career, that I forget that there are, particularly in London and particularly now, well, all over the country, really, in the UK, where the arts are, they're not just being defunded, they're literally being stripped of money in schools and extracurricular things. And it's important to try and find some way of redressing that balance.
Absolutely. If we can, absolutely. And I think we will. We'll come back different. I'll save that for a little bit later. But I want to talk about how I want to talk about your voice. I want to talk about how you came from the journey through the instrument, because a lot of people don't talk about that. You're very you're known for your Verdi and your Puccini heroines. Like, you don't magically wake up and become someone who is known for portraying, particularly the Puccini women.
Yes.
And I don't think that we often talk enough about our vocal journeys, in a way, because everyone's so protective of keeping a certain kind of illusion over. Right. I woke up and I was thinking I needed, like, no, cut it out. It doesn't work that way, So I think, we do a disservice to our audience, and particularly our young singers, to not share. So please talk about your schooling, and how your journey was vocally to now the heroines that we all dream about singing.
Well, it's so funny. Do you know what? And if there are any young singers listening, do listen up, because this was a true story. I found, when I started having singing lessons, we did the 24 songs and arias, the Sherma, those Italian arias, and you sort of think, yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm good, and then weirdly, I in a cupboard in the music block, I found what I didn't know at the time, but basically I found a vocal score of Rigoletto, and I found this really nice song in it, and I thought, oh, that's a nice song. I think I might sing it in the end of year concert. So, I just tossed off a bit of Gilda, as you do. You just kind of sing up to that top E or whatever it is, and you think, hey, can't everybody do this? And it's ridiculous when you think about it now. And then I went to music college thinking, because I was in a very small school, and everyone was saying, oh, you've got a great voice. I was a very big fish in a small pond. And then you go to a conservatoire and you realize that zero friends, nothing, zilch about singing, and you have to start again. And that was a massive shock for me. And at the beginning of that journey, and actually, well, I stopped singing for 10 years and then sort of came back to it. But, still, I was singing a lot of Bach, a lot of Mozart, a lot of Handel, actually.
Bob, yeah, because we have to speak this into a lot of singers who feel like, oh, my voice is too this for.
Oh, please. I don't care what size voice you have. You have to have a decent technique that can get you up and down and around the voice. And if you can't, there's something wrong. And it might be easier for you to sing some of the bigger, Handel roles or bigger Mozart roles if it's the more vocally comfortable to navigate through. But that is how you learn about where the holes are in your technique. That is how you learn, because if you cannot move that instrument, I would say there's something wrong with your instrument. You should actually be able to move it. There should be a flexibility, particularly when you're young. You have an inbuilt flexibility, so all of these things in a way should come quite naturally to you. So they're really good foundational building blocks for teaching you your technique, even if you go on and you end up being someone like Christina Goerke, or even she's started off singing Handel.
Yeah.
And I remember reading an interview where she sung an Alcina, and she was driving home with her husband, and she said, "Honey, I think I broke my voice." And that was around about the time when she was realizing that actually her métier, her repertoire was actually somewhere else, and she needed to give the Handel a rest. But that's where I started. And then when I had a break of about 10 years and then sort of came back to it in my 30s. Exactly that. Thank you, Kenny. When I came back to it came back to singing in my mid-30s, that's where I started again with Mozart.
From singing. And then you came back. You went away and you came back. Okay.
So it's about 10 years. And I started again in my mid-late 30s. And I was, I started by singing Mozart and Handel, because that's what I knew. And that was my way in to sort of reintroduce myself to the world, as it were. And but what happened was this. You can plan to have your career work in a particular path and in a particular direction. And I was all up for, my Handel and my Mozart. And then in 2009, this is how it happened. I started back into singing by auditioning for the National Opera Studio, for Glyndebourne Opera Chorus, Festival Chorus, and for a number of other things. And I got into the chorus, and I literally ditched in my day job a month before, I joined the Glyndebourne Chorus. So a few days later, after starting in the chorus, I got a notice that I had gotten into the National Opera Studio, which is like finishing school for opera singers in the UK. So instead of going on and doing the tour, in September, I went straight to the National Opera Studio. I was sort of sponsored, if you like, by the English National Opera, with whom I'd done various courses and things to help me get back into opera. By that Christmas, before Christmas 2009, they had offered me Mimi in La Bohème for the following year, for the following October.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I don't know. And I remember, do you know John Fisher? He used to be at the Met.
Yes, I've sung for him a few times. I don't know him personally.
Yeah, he's a fabulous voice coach, and I had some coaching with him when he was at Welsh National Opera. And I said, John, I sang some Fiordiligi with him, and I said, John, I've been given this offer, and I don't know whether I ought to take it, because I've never sung Puccini before, and it's all a bit, what do you think? And he said, well, look, if you sing your Mimi like you do your Fiordiligi, i.e. don't oversing, because it's a big auditorium. For the UK, it's 2,500 seater. That's quite big for us. And it's certainly the biggest in the country. And he said, as long as you don't oversing, just sing you sing your Mimi like you would your Fiordiligi. He said, you will be fine. And that evening I went home and phoned up E&O, and the rest is history. And so that was the first of 7 Puccini roles that I've sung to date.
Oh, ma'am, listen.
But then, having said that, after my Mimi, what did I sing? Contessa, Fiordiligi, Donna Elvira, in that order, straight after my Mimi, bang, bang, bang. So I wasn't wrong, and it stood me in very good stead, because that year, 2011, I'd sung it in Italian at an opera festival in London, and it got really lovely reviews. And then I was covering at English National Opera, which I really didn't want to do. And my coach said, "Oh, just do it, just do it, just do it." Yeah. And then what happened was that my dear friend and colleague who was singing Contessa, she sang like a goddess at the dress. And then she got a throat and a chest infection between the dress and opening night. So yours truly had to sing Contessa at English National Opera on opening night. Jump in! That was the beginning of my jumping queen reign. But that was it's quite something. And since then, I've done jump-ins with Donna Elvira, jump-ins with Fiordiligi a couple of times as well. You know, so it's worth it because you can click back into. Even last month, I sang a Mozart Requiem with English National Opera. And I wasn't sure how that would work out. And, but it worked out really well, because you're able to control your technique and control your voice and use it in such a way that it's stylish and beautiful for that kind of writing. But then, hand me a Verdi Requiem or hand me a Manon Lescaut and I can give it some. But, you've got to know how to use your instrument.
Period. Point blank.
I'm going to have more gin. Excuse me.
Yes, listen, let's hear. You have got to know how to use your instrument. And yes, Kenny, I hope that everybody, I forgot to tell people, share. If you are watching this, click the share button, put this on your page, as we always do for every combos. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this snippet of you speaking about this part of your journey, and I am going to make it its own thing along with this, because I think that it's not only important for singers to understand, I think it's important for administrators,
yes,
voice teachers who oftentimes steer singers in the wrong direction, really Black singers, when they hear that sound,
they think Aida, and you still think, if someone had offered me Aida when I started, I literally would run in the opposite direction, because that wasn't my instrument at the time. It was definitely a lyric soprano with warmth, and it had size. It was round, but it wasn't Aida. Right. And now that I've sung Aida, I know what I'm talking about. 10 years later, I sang Aida, and just wait, and actually your career shouldn't be about what you like to think you sound like or what you would quite like to sing. I would quite like to sing Brunhilde, but no one's going to cast me as Brunhilde, so don't go there. Sing the things that suit your voice now, where you can shine. And you might surprise yourself further on down the line. It was a surprise when someone said to me in an audition, "One day you will sing Tosca." In fact, I said to his face, "Don't be daft. Don't be stupid." And then 2 years later, that's what I was doing. And I had to email him back and said, "You said to me that I might sing Tosca. Well, I have," and I had to eat humble pie. But, don't go into it thinking that you're going to sing these big roles. Don't put extra pressure on yourself and on your voice. If it's not there, then sing the thing that suits your instrument, because that you always shine. That's half your job done. If you're singing the right rep, you always shine.
Absolutely. It's especially when you have control over it.
Yes.
There will be a point in your career where you know, well, I should rephrase that. Some.
I think I might need a
Hmm. Oh, where you got this, you have to say yes to that check, you know. And you know, but and then some people get to sing whatever they want. They sing the same five roles all their whole career, and the voice is
Yes.
always fresh or whatever, yada yada. But in
Yes.
this 21st century, you know, late 20th century, 21st century type of way we produce opera, you know, hold on, when you have control and you know you can make the good decisions to
Yeah.
sing the healthy things, hold on to it for as long as you can. And I also talk to singers, young singers, about understanding histrionics, understanding who, what, where, when, why, when they were writing these roles,
Yes.
getting into that space and just figuring out this thing, you know, for
Yes.
yourself. Like that is the intimacy part of being a singer is so important,
It
you know.
is. It really is. Just, I don't think enough people spend time, they go straight to the piano or the rehearsal room and start kind of note bashing and kind of, and I don't think enough singers have that kind of intelligent approach of it. Now, how did this story start? Was it based on a novel? Let me read the novel. Was it based on a play? Do you know what? I'm going to spend a couple of weeks reading the play. And not only that, I'm probably going to read other things that this person has written to get an idea of the style, their kind of prose style, but also how my character works within that prose. And then I'm going to see what the composer did with that. And sometimes, like in the case of Porgy and Bess, it's two completely different things. You know, you meet the character in one incarnation in the novel, and you meet the character in another incarnation sometimes in the opera. And, you know, that can only help kind of feed you when you're on stage or in the rehearsal room. You've got so much more to draw upon than what is being given to you. Some directors will give you nothing. Some directors will be micromanagers, but you need to know what depths there are to your character, and therefore what vocal range there is in you know, so many different sopranos can sing Tosca, so many different sopranos can sing Aida or Bess, or, you know, and you suddenly realize it's a range. And particularly if they know how to use their instrument well, they can convince you that actually this is the best way to do it, even if it's something different from what you expected. You know, and it's interesting. I've worked quite a lot with dear Carol Vaness,
Yeah.
and I worked with her on my Fiordiligi, and then I worked with her kind of over the phone for Tosca. I said, I'm about to sing my first Tosca, help me.
Right.
And you know, what should I do? Give me an idiot's guide as to how to sing Tosca. And then I worked with her over a couple of weeks on Manon Lescaut.
Mm-hmm.
And by far, I mean, I know I'm going to say something quite contentious now,
That's
but I
okay.
think she is the classiest Tosca I have ever heard on a recording. You know, it's just, she never oversings, you know, but there's a real lyric quality to the voice. But my God, when she is ready to absolutely hammer it home, she had those chops to be able to do that and absolutely split wood, you know, if she had to, with that voice. It's just incredible what an instrument she had. But she started off as a Mozartian.
Mm-hmm. And one of the best in her death. There you go.
One of the best. I remember doing an audition with Alan Gilbert back in 2011, and he was very gracious and kind, and I probably shouldn't have done the audition because I was a bit starstruck. Anyway, he said, so what are you doing in New York? And I said, oh, well, I'm here having some, you know, auditions and some coaching with Calvin S. No word of a lie. The man went weak at the knees, and he went, oh, please give her my best, and tell her that, you know, she's the best Fiordiligi I've ever seen. And I've never seen a conductor just go completely gaga. over a singer about Mozart. That's what really got me. I thought, I've never heard anyone wax lyrical about Fiordiligi ever. And here he was, Alan Gilbert, just going, oh, say hi. Oh, she's amazing. Wow. And not about her Tosca, but about her Fiordiligi. Isn't that interesting?
It's interesting, yeah, because people mostly go crazy about the big girls, the big Atlanta girls. But yeah, because Alan knows, he understands.
Yes.
Yes. So when you moved into, and I should say move into, because if someone called you and said, "Can you sing Fiordiligi tomorrow?" you'd be able to do that.
Yes, but, I mean, it probably wouldn't be the smallest and the most light lyric of Fiordiligi, shall we say. It's probably a big house for Fiordiligi now. Well, if I'm honest.
Right. And then you grow up, right?
I'd really enjoy it, actually, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about, I know so many, there's so many opinions about the Puccini heroines, and since that is such a big part of your repertoire, I would love for you to talk about what it is about those women, about that music that touches you, and that the audience resonates with. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think it is?
Well, I mean, Puccini was he loved women, shall we say. He loved the ladies. And more than that, I think he really loved and understood women. The things, I'm just going to open the door because I'm a bit overheating now. The things that they say, but actually the things that they don't say are actually the most important things that men ought to take note of. When a woman doesn't say something, that's the thing you ought to be thinking about. And he understood that. So the orchestration and the way that he sets every single heroine that I've sung, there'll be some that I haven't sung yet or that I won't ever sing, but he seems to understand how women work, how they think, and it's just very beautiful. The text is always beautifully set, and when it gets to the point that she can't say what she needs to say, the orchestra takes over, or she'll be saying one thing but the orchestra is saying something completely different, and you have to listen to the orchestra. Don't listen to the soprano out here. The orchestra is saying where it's at, and it's really it's so insightful, and also very beautiful. They're always the roles are always very well paced as well. So, for example, when I sang Suor Angelica, I also sang for the first time. I also sang Giorgetta for the first time. So I was on stage for about an hour and a half because the director, who's Damiano Michieletto, had decided to make Giorgetta and Angelica the same person. So after the end of the scream, and her husband has killed her lover in Itabarro, the scenery changes behind her, and obviously she's left as a solitary figure, and we're to understand that actually from there she goes into a convent, and the child that they've been talking about isn't actually dead. He was only ever taken away from that couple, and is being looked after by the Zia Principessa. That's what we're meant to understand. And it's so clever. Oh. Anyway, it meant that I was on stage for an hour and a half, and it was a very physical production. But what was really interesting for me was that I was physically tired because of the production, but I wasn't vocally tired, even though I was singing two fairly major roles back to back without a break. And that can only be because the writing allows the voice to relax, or stop singing, or have its big moment that's sort of built up to, and there's never a kind of an awkward, jerky moment where you feel that vocally you're being pulled about the place. And so from that point of view, it wasn't easy, but it was still a marathon, but it was a manageable marathon. And actually, if I'd had to, I did it 15 times. So yeah, exactly. So it just goes to show that it is possible, and each time it got better. And the difficulty I had in that production was learning how to keep a limit on my physicality so that my vocality wouldn't suffer. But if it was a concert performance, it would have been, let's go. And that's down to Puccini, it's down to his genius in writing, I think.
Absolutely. That's always my struggle, is because I feel the music and I'm always like, oh, ready to like leap off the stage. But I mean, that's just that's just my nature, but when you let the text lead you, and you let, and the beautiful text that that's always there, and that's so in the character and in the way he writes. I was telling somebody, it's like, just follow what the man wrote, the map. If you do what's on the page, 75% of your work is done.
And it was interesting. I was singing a butterfly in Denmark, my first and only butterfly so far.
And I want to talk about that. Talk about that as well too.
I've got so much to say about that, because we probably have this conversation. But anyway, I'll start at the beginning. And I turned up to rehearsals, and the only reason I said yes, I had 6 weeks to learn Butterfly. It was a last-minute insertion into the season. And I was singing Magda in the Rondine at the time, and in London. And I said, look, I'm only going to be able to start work on this once that run is over. So effectively, I had 6 weeks to go from zero to hero with Butterfly. And I only said yes because I'd sung at the Royal Danish before. They knew me, I knew them. And there was a mutual love and respect, between me and the company and the orchestra. I got on well with a lot of people in the orchestra, but most importantly, the maestro, Giuliano Carella. He had conducted Il Trittico when I did it there, so I knew that I was in safe hands. And I turned up at the first rehearsal and I said, Maestro, look, just teach me how to sing Butterfly. Because he's been singing it, or he'd been conducting it rather, as long as possibly I've been alive. And he's got the same score as he had the very first day he conducted Butterfly, and all of his markings are in there. What he doesn't know about Butterfly probably wasn't worth knowing. And I said, Maestro, what advice would you give to me at top of rehearsals? We've got 4 weeks because it was a revival. And he said, have a warm heart, but a cool head, because it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And he's absolutely right, and all the way through, he was saying there's so much of this score that is recitativo. It doesn't require you to sing out. You will know when you need to sing out. The sort of the when she sees the boat, that's one of those moments, you go singing. But before then, there's not very much apart from your aria. The rest is recitativo. Sing that. And it just helped me to really pace my way through the role. I mean, Act 1 is
yes.
Act 2 is long, and there's a lot going on in Act 2. Act 3 is quite short, but you just had to get the pacing right. And I was so lucky. I fell on my feet with that guy and that orchestra who played Puccini. They're just such a dream orchestra for Puccini, and the loveliest of colleagues who would fight my corner if I felt that I wanted to play it this way, or the director wanted to do it another way. That was the first time I've ever had my colleagues defend me in a rehearsal and say, no, I think Liz is right. I think, you know, that is beautiful, and I wouldn't want to change anything. And it was just, that was the first time I'd ever been defended, because, you know, as leading lady, you go in there, you lead the team, you lead the pack, you're on your own. Sometimes people will be gunning for you, sometimes people will be supportive of you, but you will never know until you start those rehearsals. And it was a really special debut to make with them. But yeah, being a Black woman singing Butterfly.
Yes, I want to have that conversation because, you know, I always say my knees are past that, but I would love to
you so need to be able to kneel, don't you? Yeah. It's one of the prerequisites. You need to be able to kneel.
Yeah, I mean, I still got my Aida knees, but the
other thing, Aida ends up on her knees a lot.
But you don't have to be cute getting up and down, you know, as you do a butterfly. But and I would love, yeah. And you know, and I did cover you earlier in my career at the Met, like, you know. So I've had sung it one time, and you know, whatever. But that was long ago. But I would love to do it in concert, you know, to just have the opportunity at least one time before it's all over to just, you know, to do that. But, you know, within all of these conversations that we're having now around opera and classical music and race and, you know, in cultural appropriation, of course, it's been something that's a conversation that has happened long even before 2020. But I want you to talk about that, because there's a beautiful, and I wish I could be as savvy as Kenny is with his Black Opera Live with
photos.
Yeah, you know, the pictures and all that kind of stuff. You know, I'm just like, I just want to talk and drink. You know, that's how we roll.
There's no harm in that. It's no shame in talking and drinking.
Absolutely. There is a beautiful picture of you singing Cho-Cho-san, and you don't have the white makeup on or anything, and it is just stunning. So please, and I know Latanya's on here. She has a wonderful comment about the costume. I'm going to put that. And for me, she is one of the most beautiful Toscas. I mean,
I so agree with everything Latanya's just
everything. Exactly. Yeah. I love her Butterfly, and she really represents us well. But please talk about. I would love to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, it's so interesting because I was asked to do this, and I didn't think at all that it would be an issue. The reason I didn't think it would be an issue is exactly because of Latanya, and because of, you know, because I found photographs of her singing Butterfly. I thought, okay, so there's a precedent, and you find photographs of Martina Arroyo and Leontine. Yeah, you know the story. And so I was like, yeah, and they were singing it at a time when, you know, where things were things were always hard for Black folks, but particularly at the time that they were singing, it was a tough time for Black folks on the stage and off the stage, and you know, you know. And so I thought, look, there is a precedent that stretches back even before I was born, of Black women having sung Butterfly and singing it really successfully. And you know, here is Latonya. I know that she sung Butterfly, and I'm sure it was absolutely amazing. And you know, and she sung it at the Met, hasn't she? And so, you know, get over it. You know, I didn't think there was an issue. Well, what happened was, and I must say this, I must preface this by saying that actually at the Royal Danish, the two women who have ever done my makeup there, particularly when, you know, we did Porgy Best there, first of all, that's how I was first singing there. They are dear friends, and I love them dearly. But anyway, we did like the test makeup for Butterfly. And I orange is all I'm saying. I was orange. And I said, look, you know I love you, my friend. You know you'll be a friend for life. But this, I cannot go on stage like this. I'm sorry. She's going, oh, but it looks like, I said, no, 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 no. So I got in touch with a friend of mine who at the time was the head of wigs and makeup at the English National Opera. And she'd done my makeup for things like, I think for La Bohème, she designed it. And for when I sang Erste Dame in Die Zauberflöte. And so, she knows stuff. Mm-hmm. And I said, Nessie, look, if you had a black woman who was singing Butterfly, what would you do? And she said, look, the whole thing about the geisha makeup is it's meant to be a few shades lighter so that you have that mask ceremonial look for the geisha. After that, she's dirt poor. She has nothing. So she's not going to have any makeup on. She's just going to be herself. She's just going to be whatever complexion she was under the makeup. And I said, would you mind if I forwarded this to my dear friend who's doing my makeup? She said, no, not at all, which I did. And I forwarded it to the director. And to be fair, they adjusted it to what you see in the photographs. Out of, they wanted me to be comfortable, but they also wanted to make sure that the makeup, because it was a revival, that it needed to be something along the lines of a revival, looking like the last time it was out there, and fair enough. So that's fine. However, my friend, I need alcohol for this. Yeah. What happened was that one of the main Danish newspapers, who weren't actually reviewing Madame Butterfly because it was a revival, they did a 2-page spread, which is probably still available online, entitled "No More Yellow Face at the Opera," because
we don't have to do it.
I don't know what else to say. And you sort of think, so okay, it's okay for a white woman to play a Japanese woman, and no one has anything to say about that. But a black woman who, they've thought of and had input about the makeup and how to make it work so that you're telling the story, you still have an issue with that. And I need more alcohol for this. Yeah. Okay. The other thing was, across the water, across the canal in if you know Copenhagen, is a massive canal. Across the water at the Playhouse, they were putting on a new production of Shakespeare's Othello with a white woman in the title role. Cheers.
Cheers.
6 stars, 6 stars, reviews. Everyone was like, that's amazing. And so it there is a kind of double standard. And it even from some of the staff within the Opera House, as much as I love that house and that theatre, we're saying, oh, isn't it funny that you're black and you're singing Butterflies? Like, really? Is it funny?
Right.
I like, weirdly enough, I did a lot of research when I made my debut as Mimi at the beginning of my career. It was set in Paris in the 1930s, and that was the costuming. It was beautiful, beautiful production, Jonathan Miller. And I did my homework, to understand what were black people doing in Paris in the 1930s? What did they look like? Where did they hang out? Where did they live? How did they see themselves in society? So that I filled myself up with so many facts about black people in the 1930s in Paris, that I was completely easy within my skin and within that production. I did the same for Butterfly, and just researched about black people in Japan, the difficulties, the things that they've loved, and I just did my homework, and to the point actually that I could confidently have this conversation about makeup, or that I could just feel that actually this could have happened. If I was in Japan in whenever it was set, I don't know, turn of the century, what have you, I may have seen a geisha. And actually, I saw there was an American lady who was so in back in the 80s or 90s, I think she was so taken with the whole Japanese culture and being a geisha, she actually for went her entire life in America, packed it up and went to Japan to study to be a geisha, and went through all of that rigorous training. And obviously, in terms of her build and her skin color and what have you, she was a fish out of water to begin with. But that's what she is now. If she hasn't died, that's what she is. She has learned the art of being a geisha. So it's not something that is closed for one sort of set of people. It's something that actually could have happened. And I mean, look at Naomi Osaka. She's a mixed race, Japanese and African.
Haitian.
Okay, there you go, Haitian. There we go. It could happen.
It happened.
There are Chinese people in Jamaica. There are Indian people in. Everyone's had a go at the West Indies. Out of many, one people. That is how sort of Black people have moved around the globe, and other people have moved around the globe. And so the fact is, we have a global history of our people moving around and turning up in lots of different places at different times in our history. It's not trying to shoehorn anything into a production. And
well, this is why we need diversity in directing, and specifically in directing, in the storytelling, in production, all of these things, because these would not be issues if we had people who understood, who had done their work. Okay, you did your homework, fine, but also, understand and have a certain level of how do I say it? I forgot what I was going to say, but investment in it, Yes.
Yes.
Are you going to be a director, Liz? I'm getting director from you.
Director vibes.
Yes.
Do you know what I would love to? I'd love to be I'd love to go into directing. I think it's a really tough job. We've all been at the receiving end of bad directors. You know what I mean? Okay. We've all been at the receiving end of bad directors. Or I've even been told, I won't say for which production and what have you, but I've even been told to ignore the libretto. And I was like, that's all we got. That's all we've got.
That's it.
How can I ignore the thing I've been working on?
Yeah.
I've even been told by a director to ignore the libretto. And so it's we've all had good and bad directors, good and bad conductors, and what have you. And I think it is a tough job, but I think there's a lot of mileage still. There's a lot to be achieved in the rehearsal room and on the stage. I think there aren't enough people of color in directing theatre in general, and certainly very few in terms of directing opera, if any. So I think there are some coming up, but it will take time.
I see it. I get the as I'm here witnessing you speak about text, about story, about history, and how you explain. I'm like, oh, I get director.
Listen, I'll take it. We've all got to hustle.
I see it. I'm experienced, and you could do anything you want to do, but you know what I mean. But this idea that singers always have to go teach, or always, and that is it can be and. and particularly for us as women, as Black women, we already have and we just don't always get the opportunity to show that. And so if that's what you got on your spirit, and that's what and director, go for it, girl, go for it.
Yeah, I'd love to. You know, I still feel, certainly at the moment, there's still so much I want to achieve.
And singer and
yes. Do you know what I am? Whether that's me limiting myself or I don't know. But I'm better at kind of concentrating pretty much on one thing at a time. I'm not much of a multitasker. I can kind of get distracted and not finish things. But where I am is that I feel as if, you know, singing wise, I'm just hitting my stride. You know, and it's like, you know what, I want to do some more striding. Do you know what I mean? You know, that said, it's been really interesting over lockdown in terms of you know, the various projects and different things that have sprouted up. Kiki Conversations, which has grown out of lockdown, and you know, there have been one or two things I've got on the boil that may well premiere in sort of October of next year. And then possibly December of next year. But it's really exciting to be in control of your own destiny, I guess, and to bring not just that, but to bring people in. I was genuinely surprised when I said, "Look, I'm going to do this thing. Who's with me? Do you want to be on?" And people biting my hand off. I was actually quite shocked. I thought, and it's partly because we've all not been working as much as we have been and have wanted to. But it's interesting, once you sort of sell a vision and someone sort of catches that vision with you, they are with you. And it's really exciting because you suddenly have this this confederation of great minds sort of having this idea and that idea, and have you thought of that? And you know, we hit an impasse there, but someone says, oh, but we can get around it this way, and before you know it, you've got a really exciting team of people who aren't necessarily of the same discipline from me. I'm the of this project that I'm hoping will come off the ground in October 2021. I'm the only singer. We've got some instrumentalists. I've got a choreographer who used to be an aerialist, who's also a puppeteer, and he brought on a puppeteer friend of his. There is an animator who's into film and animation. I've got a stage manager who is she is off the charts organized. She makes me look like frazzled, and it's just it's incredible that it happened like that. And it's so exciting, and when you start flagging, there's someone else to kind of spur you on and to kind of spark your imagination, or to just give you a good old kick up the backside and get going, you know. So yeah, I think I'm really excited to see where all of these, you know, you and Vopera, who did a virtual opera sort of online, L'Enfant et le Sortilège. If you haven't seen it, guys, watch it. It's absolute. Everything was recorded against a green sort of background in her shed, in terms of the physical movements, and then all of the singers, they recorded their parts wherever they lived in the world. And then they put it all together. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Rachel Hewitt is a goddess. It's Vopera. They're on Instagram and on Twitter, and they were partnered. Rachel Hewitt is the director, and she was the assistant director of the La Rondine that I did. That's how I know her. And her partner is Anthony Mark Turnage, the composer, and they got on board the LPO, London Philharmonic Orchestra, to do this in a socially distanced way. She got, in fact, they employed 135 people. 135 people. Amazing, all socially distanced. The singers don't even live in the same place. You know, they were all kind of recorded at home, and then the whole thing was put together, and amazing.
It's amazing what's happening during this time, and all of the inventiveness that we've all been sitting on for so long.
Yes.
Forced to do. Listen, I had the most amazing meeting yesterday, as you know, as well. And you know, I can't talk about it right now, but like, I mean, I was just like, this is what I needed, you know, like the next thing where, you know, I feel like this time, and I've spoken about this on this platform before, about how empowered I feel in this time, you know, and how the ownership of my own creativity that I wasn't even tapped into. I'm tapped into it when I'm on the stage interpreting.
Yes.
But outside of that, I've not exercised that, and I haven't been required to, you know, especially in the generation that we come from. It's not the same thing as a lot of the millennials or the Gen Zers are in a way. And so you know, and I want you to speak about this time and what it's been like for you, because, you know, before we went live, you spoke a little bit about that, but you know, as an artist and as a human,
yes,
first, I want you to speak about that.
Human first. Friends, we are humans first. Artists second. Sorry if it rocks a few boats, but that's the truth. You know, I always say the people who are going to be at your deathbed are the people that you need to look after in your life. And so think about that for a little while. You know, who's going to be around holding your hand, mopping your brow, you know, clearing up your sick or whatever it is on your deathbed? They are the people that you need to invest in. And, you know, and if it's a question between work and them, they have to win every time, because they're your people. They're the people that will, you know, raise you up. And, you know, when you feel that your face is flat on the ground. And this time has been a time to discover who those people are and who they're not. And there have been a few surprises, you know, in terms of you think, you know, someone's down for you and they're not. You think someone isn't down for you and they are your biggest fan. And, you know, and it's been really very interesting to see how we've kind of moved around one another, and, you know, sort of where alliances have been formed, and where friendships have been cemented during this time, you know. And I think it's very telling, and not just individuals, but also companies, which opera companies or have been the people who have, you know, when your thing has, when your contract has been cancelled, who have come back and said, actually, we're going to honor that contract, or we're going to honor it as much as we can. We're going to give you 20%. Even though this is cancelled, we're going to give you something, because it's not your fault. It's not anyone's fault. You know, you find out who your friends are. Take note, because these are the people you're going to want to keep close from here on in, as things get back to normal, whatever that is. And so it, you know, for me, it's been really, well, it was weird because, you know, at the very beginning, because I'd had such a busy time, I'd literally gone from my year of 2019 was Mephistopheles, Manon Lescaut, Bess at the Met, 48-hour turnaround, started rehearsals for Aida, sang Aida, had about a week, started rehearsals for Louisa Miller, sang Louisa Miller with a Missa Solemnis thrown in because it was Beethoven 2050 and 250, and then flew back to Germany to sing an Aida. Then that week in between Aidas, we were doing 2 performances of Verdi Requiem because, hey, you've got the soloist, you might as well. And so,
Right.
that was my season. So when you met me at the Met, my head was about to explode. Every time you didn't see me in a rehearsal room, I was in a practice room working on Louisa Miller or Aida. That was, and so by the time lockdown,
I happen to say that, like,
my
yeah,
voice.
listen, if you don't know, go pick up a score and listen. I mean, look. Okay, anyway, go ahead, baby.
So by the time, actually, we got as far as the Generalprobe for the Verdi Requiem, and then we were all called to a meeting and told that, the town was going to be shut down that day. Go and get your kids from school, get your flight out of here, whatever you need to do, that is it. Germany is shutting down, the Schengen borders are shutting down. And I flew out the next day. And so from that point on, I daren't say it because I know a lot of people were grieving, but it was a relief, Karen. I've never been so happy in my life because I could come off the merry-go-round and get in my bed, and I could be in my house. I don't think I'd actually been home for more than a week or 2 in the whole of 2019. And so I was in clover for the first 2 months of lockdown. I live in a rural part of West Yorkshire in the northwest of England, and it backs onto one of our national parks. The Peak National Park is literally, well, a 2-minute walk from my front door. And so, lockdown, going for a walk in lockdown was like, woohoo, because I didn't see anyone, on my 2-hour walks every day. And the weather was great. And at the time I started up my Dancing Diva hashtag on Instagram.
You were rocking, girl. You were killing it.
If you want a laugh, friends, have a look at some of those videos. Even now, they make me laugh. But, it was designed to increase my fitness, but also something, although I wasn't suffering, I just felt for my mental health, I needed to do something that was fun, that wasn't about my job, that wasn't about my size or my shape. It was just about something that I really love doing, which is dancing. And I'm not very good at it, but I enjoyed it, and it was a laugh, and it was lovely to have people voting, and Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears and Beyonce, and I just had a ball, and lots of people were cheered up by it, and because I was aware that a lot of my colleagues were grieving and finding life very hard. And so it was, 5 minutes of frivolity, really, which I think they appreciated, and it was fun. And then I kind of hit a brick wall round about the time the Wigmore Hall announced their first set of recitals. So that was late spring, I guess. And it suddenly hit me, I might not get any work from this point onwards. It was as stark as that. I just thought, look, they're asking all of these really well-known singers, and they're not going to ask me. And if they're doing that, then all of the other houses, all the other venues are probably going to follow suit. Yeah. And it may well mean that I don't, for everything that's cancelled, I might be at the bottom of the heap in terms of being asked to do anything. And it really hit me, Karen, like a ton of bricks. And I kind of went into some kind of funk. It was really odd. I stopped practicing. I stopped the Dancing Diva thing. I kind of stopped. It was really odd. And I felt, I felt really tearful most days, and But I felt very strongly that I needed to have that time. Whatever was going on with me had to happen, and I wasn't going to put any pressure on myself to, at the time, the one shining beacon I had was that I had this contract for the end of this year for Ellen Orford in Peter Grimes, and I thought, well, as long as that happens, then I will be okay. And a few months ago, it cancelled. And weirdly enough, I did an audition where the director, David Alden, was present. And we spent the first 5 minutes just commiserating and just how depressed we were that it wasn't happening. Right. But, I needed to have that month or two. I came off social media for a couple of months and gave myself that time, really. And then out of the blue, I got a phone call from my dear friend Simon Lepper, who's an incredible pianist and head of collaborative piano at the Royal College of Music. And he said, John Gilhuri at Wigmore Hall wants to speak to you about something. And we had a chat about something he had on his mind. And I said, I don't think it's a good idea. And, he said, well, in any case, thanks for that input. But in any case, I'd really like to invite you to come and sing at the Wigmore Hall. And I thought, okay, we'll see.
But that's a big deal, people, just so you know.
It's like being asked to do a solo recital at the Carnegie Hall, friends. That's where we are. And I thought, okay, and Simon said, okay, it's a really nice offer, but he may not, for lots of reasons, be able to follow through. So don't take it as gospel. Anyway, in August, I got offered a Wigmore Hall for September. And so I'll put some of the footage up over Christmas so that you can have a look at it. But it was amazing. And what was really amazing was that, I started with some Strauss because, hey, Strauss. And in the middle of it was a set of songs by Samuel Coleridge Taylor. And that was the first time that a lot of the London audience had ever heard songs by Coleridge Taylor. Really? And so, and so it was a big thing. People were saying, I'd never heard of him before, but I love these songs. Do you have more? La la la. And I said, well, I'm going to be releasing an album of his songs, which will happen next year, sort of May, June, that will be released. So that was really a real honor to introduce people to a composer and to songs that they'd never heard before, and quality songs at that. And then finished off with some Mahler, the Rückert Lieder, which I've loved for about 24, 25 years, but I had never sung.
That's a dream. That's another dream. Like, oh,
beautiful. And Simon played like an absolute legend, and it was just so well received. And anyway, I've been invited back in January, so that will be live streamed and on their YouTube channel for a month or so after. It's 22nd of January.
Awesome. Please shoot me a message. I know you're not on Facebook, so please.
Yes. Actually, I've just posted something today on my Elizabeth Llewellyn Soprano page. So there's a link there to that, and you can sign up to be on the live stream. But so that's really exciting, and I seem to have reinvented myself as a result, as a recitalist. So literally a week or so later, I was invited to sing at Snape Maltons, which is basically, it is the home of all things Benjamin Britten. And again, you only get invited to somewhere, it's quite prestigious. You only get invited there if you've sung at somewhere like Wigmore Hall. So that was incredible. And then there have been lots of spin-offs from that. And I've got quite a lot of recitals now lined up for 2021.
Wow.
And then obviously there'll be more around the release of the album in May, June. But I've been invited to festivals, and so I'm having to go from zero to hero with regard to recital repertoire and reinvent myself as a recitalist. But I'm loving it, and I'm very, very lucky to have someone like Simon to knock ideas around with, and he's so knowledgeable. Obviously, that's his world, and so I'm very lucky to have him as my collaborator on all of those things. But yeah, there'll be lots more. We're doing a Verdi and Puccini songs. Hey, Kevin! Kevin Short.
Keep going. Everyone's presence.
Oh, and Nicole.
Oh, yes. Nicole's been commenting. I just had to get it up.
So that's exciting. You know, we're doing a recital of Verdi and Puccini songs at the beginning of February. We're looking to do some more chanson songs because I've been converted to chanson.
What did you converted? He was amazing.
I had no idea. I had no idea it was that good. And I had no idea.
I wanted to film La Mer so badly. Oh my God.
I am team chanson all the way. And we're going to do some Wolf and some Brahms and possibly some Messiaen. There's lots of things. Oh, well, end of 2021.
Woo! Yeah.
To sing another best for one night only. So get your tickets, friends.
Maybe Carnegie will call, or
yeah. So I was meant to be singing at Donald Runnacle's Grand Teton Festival in August, but that was cancelled. So I'm gutted about that, because that would have been amazing to sing with him again. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? It's up until now, I would have said that, my personality, my voice seems to be enjoyed more in the US or away from the UK than in the UK. We'll see. The world is very different now. And the US, like all countries, are using much more their own sort of singers and working geographically, like where was it, in Texas? Was it Houston in Texas, where Talise Trevine and Morris Robinson and Jamie Barton and who else? They kind of formed like an ensemble.
Oh, Atlanta Opera.
Yes,
Atlanta.
That's it. For one season only, which I thought was genius.
Yes,
absolute genius. And I don't know. We'll see. I'd love to work more in the States. I feel kind of connected. It's very difficult to understand, to explain, but I just feel much more myself. I feel as if I can sing with the voice I have. And kind of expand somehow more. When I was at Seattle and when I was at the Met, it just felt very natural and very. And so I'd love to sing more in the States. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I'd love to have you come to Portland. That'd be amazing to have you come.
Oh, I'd love to. Do you know what? Do you know what? Portland were interested in me for their Butterfly, but it clashed with the Met. So in the end, I couldn't even go and audition. But we've stayed in touch, and so who knows?
Yeah, you never know
what happens in the future. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many gems that you just dropped in this entire interview. But in this last, when you're talking about this time, I mean, first of all, you're really making me miss singing very, very badly. In the theater, I have to say, I think this is my first interview where I was like, okay, I really miss singing so much. But the gems and the that you just dropped, particularly about the career in a way where you didn't see yourself one way, and then here you are, with all of these things, taken from us for COVID and a whole other lane. It was like, oh, the door opened and you stepped through it and you were ready and you were open and you were, and maybe it took that loss of the opera work in order for you to see yourself how you always have been.
Yes. Yeah.
My God,
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because even the album had to get put off twice because of opera work, and because it just takes up a lot of time. 2 or 3 months, sometimes even up to 4 or 5 months at a time, and so it's lovely. It's a challenge to kind of put together programs. That's the thing that I find really hard, because I don't have that background of doing that and of knowing what fits together. Right. But it was really interesting singing my Wigmore. It took a bit of time to get used to the hall, the idea that the hall kind of supports everything you do, every little thing you do. Wow. So you don't have to send it anywhere. It literally just holds it. Wow. And so once you understand that, and you think, oh, okay, so I do this, and it just goes, yeah. And so you think, okay, yeah, I understand this acoustic now. I understand this métier now. And, as I went through the program, the hall and the acoustic, it served what I was doing more and more. So by the time we got to the Mahler, it was bring it on. Yeah. And so everything, I really enjoy. I remember actually having a coaching with the Finnish soprano Zoila Isakowski.
Yeah.
And she was coaching me on the Marschallin. While she was singing Ariadne of Naxos at Glyndebourne, and she was very generous for her time. Spent about 3 hours together almost. Wow. And I said, I've got so many questions. She said, ask your questions. Ask me as many as you like. We went for coffee, all of this. And I said, look, I'm aware that I'm a woman in my 30s, in my late 30s. I can feel that my body is changing, my voice is changing. How did you look up, not that we had exactly the same trajectory in terms of repertoire, but very similar. Mm-hmm. And, and I said, how do you look after your voice? How do you? And she said, Liederabend. And I was like, I didn't see that coming. I was expecting it to say, steaming, or I don't know, massage or something, like, I didn't see that one coming. And it was really, I understand now what she means, because it's making your voice it makes your voice more pliable. You're not ever over singing. You're always delivering again to the text, to the moment. You're delivering to the moment. And so in that moment, if you feel that you want to sing it in a whisper so that people can barely hear you, that is absolutely right, because it's right for that moment. And so what that does for your voice is it increases the sort of elasticity and the range of expression in your instrument. And so when you need to sing Mitternacht and bring out the big guns, you can. But if you need to sing Ich bin der Welt abhanden gekommen and it's marked PPP, you sing it that way. And it's quite liberating, actually, because whatever you do, if you do it with conviction, it's right. Right. And you don't have someone with a stick or an orchestra that you've got to keep with, or an ensemble that you've got to balance with on stage or anything like that. It's just about you, your best mate on the piano, and the acoustic that you find yourself in, and the moment that you want to create at that time. And it's the possibilities, therefore, are endless. Isn't that exciting?
It's extremely exciting.
Yeah.
I have a bit of recital myself during, the year, because I always feel like I'm my most free when I'm on that platform. Yes. Like, my God, like every day you're like, okay, what's gonna happen now? Buckle up.
Yes. And you never know until you get there. And it was interesting for us at Snape. We did the Wigmore Hall program twice in the same day. And it was so interesting for us, because immediately there was something different about all of those songs. Simon was playing them differently. He was delivering different things to me. Therefore, I took those things and I delivered different things back to him. And it was this tennis match. And, we came off the first performance and we were going, new things, and we'd been working on this program for so long. I guess neither of us had really thought that there was anything new that we could discover about each other or about the songs. And suddenly this whole other world was opening up in these two performances. And it's really freeing. There are very few places where you feel very completely yourself, and that what you say and how you say it is right. And the recital platform is one of those places. And it has the added benefit of kind of helping you to look after your instrument and to discover more about what your instrument will do, that you can then bring back into your operatic work, and vice versa. But you need to be brave to be that naked, I think, don't you?
Yes, you need to be extremely brave, and you need to be extremely open in order to go to the place that you need to go to. And so you've got to cut out all of the voices, the
The
noise,
noise.
the way that this the way that Dame Janet Baker sang it, or the way that Jesse sang it, or the way that Ludwig sang it. And you've got to just get into your vessel, and express with the fullness of who
Yes.
you are and where you are in your life. That's what I always feel like. I just ask that vessel to be open, to get into the fullness of wherever I am at that moment, at that time, and do the thing. And so, that's already enough. That's a job, and that's enough.
Yes. Yes.
Know.
Because it takes some stripping away, doesn't it? It really does. And I think particularly as we're training as young singers, it's interesting. I sent a Christmas card to my conservatoire singing teacher, because we're still in touch, and I said, because she was also our English song tutor at music college, and I said, you'll never guess what my debut album is. It's a debut album of English songs. And she sent me a card back, and she said, on the envelope she'd written, you were always a wonderful sort of conveyor, expresser of yourself in song. And I thought, gosh, isn't that interesting? I wouldn't have never said that about myself. Or I would never at any point, certainly during my training, have felt that I was confident enough to be myself within a song. It was much easier to be myself on the stage and in a role. It's interesting that she saw that, and I'm only just seeing that now for myself.
It's the completion. It is the completion. What we see, what others see in us, and then to where we see what we see in ourselves, what we recognize in ourselves. That's the mark of that's art.
It is. It really is. And I think those younger singers who we really admire are those kind of singers who are really easy in themselves. They look at themselves and say, actually, you are enough. And it expresses itself in not just self-confidence, but just a feeling that they don't have to, when you watch them sing, whatever they sing, just this feeling that they don't have to do anything to impress you. They're drawing you in, they're not coming out to you. Those are those artists that you sort of think, oh, they're really interesting. That's where it begins, actually. I think that's where the operatic confidence, the confidence to be operatic, it sort of begins. It is where you feel that you don't have to go out to your audience. You can bring them into your world and into your moment and into the things that you're creating with your colleagues on stage. Those are the artists that really, make the hairs on the back of our neck stick up, and that we're absolutely transfixed. It's interesting that you can learn that discipline, if you like. It's a weird discipline, but it is on the recital platform. And actually, when I was at college, I don't think I sang my first opera aria until my 3rd year out of 4. Up until that point, it was songs all the way.
Oh, that's another gem. Song. Yes, that's how you sharpen those tools. Yeah. So I have had you on here for almost 2 hours.
2 hours.
And
It felt like 15 minutes.
I know. I could talk to you forever. You are my sister. I love you. I'm so inspired by you. And so, I listen. I can't wait until Corona gets her ass out of here.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Yes. Wear your masks, people. We want to get rid of this thing.
Yeah.
Wear your masks.
Wear your mask. Yes, social distance, wear your mask, put your hand sanitizer, take the vaccine.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. And so many people are, showing you so much love on here.
Robert.
Yes. Yeah. You are inspiring. Just yes. Reggie, yes.
Reggie.
Yes, and Kevin, and I mean, I just, I
Kevin, I love you.
Yes, and Adrian is inviting you to Fort Worth. Yes, Adrian.
Oh, I'd love to come to Texas. I'd love to. Bring it on.
Yes, so please, I always ask my guests to leave us with something inspirational, whatever it is, that you want to, because in this time, as we're going into a new year, and although it's only one day, it really does feel like a turning over. It always does. So, I mean, just whatever you can share with us. So you've already given us so much. My God, you have to come back. We have to do a live we're together, but you're welcome back anytime. Please, we can do solo CD recording. We'll do a listening party of your CD. How about that?
Oh gosh. As soon as I can, I will be on a plane. Believe me, I will. I really will. Oh gosh. Leave you with something. I want to leave you with this. I have a hashtag that, weirdly enough, I'd forgotten I'd had as a hashtag, and the friend I'm working on a project with reminded me of it as part of this project, moving it forward. And my hashtag is, which actually grew up out of lockdown, was do something new. I'm so frustrated with the way that some companies, venues, not all, but some are trying to go back to the old ways of doing things, and the old ways of casting, and the old ways of putting together a team, and the old ways of presenting and telling a story. And those old ways, they haven't gone, but they're no longer relevant. They're no longer pertinent to the life that we're living now, and the careers that we're etching out and eking out for ourselves now. Loads of people like Kiki and Vopra, and there's another dear friend of mine, Mary Bevan, who's been doing outdoor concerts, if you can imagine outdoors in the UK, at this tower, come rain or shine, and she's managed to draw in lots of singers, and she's tried to pay them, and there's been lots of these kind of initiatives. And all I would say is, please don't just accept the status quo and the things that have happened up until this point. This is such a great opportunity to try and do something new. You may well fall flat on your face, or it might be a roaring success, like Kiki Conversations. You don't know until you try. And the one project that I think is going to head up in October 2021. I had no idea whether it would work or whether anyone would want to come with me. And now it's going to, head up the Norfolk and Norwich festival, because that's where that piece was premiered at their 250th in 2022. It may well end up back at St Maltings in 2021. We're looking to tour it around lots of other festivals and schools and venues, and give people a taste of what it's like to be up close to a singer and incredible musicians who are handling their music and their material really well. So there's no dumbing down.
Yes.
It's about quality, but it's about presenting that quality in a very different format and in a lean, light on your feet format. I would just say to folks, look, if you have an idea, even if it's a seed of an idea and you're not even sure how it will work, run with it. Now is the time to run with it, because you never know where it might lead you. And actually, it might open up something else in our industry that means that it moves forward in terms of the stories it tells, the diversity, the people it gathers in, the people it reaches. And isn't that why we came into this industry? It was about reaching lots of people from different genders and backgrounds and ages and life experiences, and we're enriched by that. And so do something new, friends. Do something new, please.
Please do something new and run with it, right?
Run with it. Yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody, for coming again, as usual. My crew, my people who always come over here, my people who share. I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you, Liz, for blessing us on this day. You blessed us. Listen,
thank you.
I hope every good thing comes to you. Everything that's got your name on it. Everything that's got your name on it. Everything you don't know that's got your name on it. I hope it comes. Everybody's got, listen, I hope it all comes to you. Thank you so much for this. And I'm serious about that listening party. We're going to do that listening party.
You're going to do it. Okay. Look out for when the album drops. I think you'll be delighted by it. Yeah. And there's a place for Coleridge Taylor in the US, I know. So, yeah, he's coming home.
Yes. So again, as we go, share this with people. Share this live. It stays on my page. It stays on my Facebook, and we have our YouTube page. Please like the YouTube page so that sponsors can go, okay, this girl's something,
Yay!
For her. Next week, I don't know if we're gonna do combos for Christmas Eve, but listen, New Year's Eve, baby.
Party.
I have a New Year's Eve combo. So look out for an invite to come and drop in and bless the people. And I think I might need to rest for Christmas Eve. So New Year's Eve we can turn up. So anyway, thank you all. Liz, stay on. Don't go. Okay. I love y'all. And I know tonight, what are we gonna do tonight? I have to finish my taxes. I know I'm a mess.
Don't talk to me about taxes. Taxes.
Oh, I need more drinks for that. Anyway, I love y'all. All right. Have a good night, y'all.
Thanks for joining us.